Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast.
Greetings, people of Earth and the known universe. You're listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. It's your Captain Keith, and got some stuff to talk about today. Supergirl, the return of Animal Kingdom Season 3, and the return of Queen Sugar. I believe that's Season 3 as well. Season 3 or 4. So yes, some fun stuff to talk about. Let's start off with Supergirl. So, for those you don't know, and I'm pretty sure most of you probably already do, Supergirl, iconic superhero from DC Comics. She is the first cousin of Superman. Her cousin's name is Kal-El. That's his Kryptonian name. Her Kryptonian name is Kara Zor-El. So they're first cousins through Superman's father, Jor-El, and Kara's father, Zor-El. Brothers, so of course. So the series has been on the CW for a while. It started off at CBS, and then the ratings were good, but they weren't allegedly CBS good, so they moved it over to CW, which it probably just should have been over there from, to start off with anyway. So yeah, but the latest episode was called Dark Side of the Moon, and there's a reason why I want to talk about this. So what I've noticed on Supergirl is that they've been real cool about bringing back former stars from the different Superman franchises. Like Dean Cain plays Supergirl's adopted father. Dean Cain was from Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman on ABC. Erica Durance, the other day, on this episode, Dark Side of the Moon, plays Supergirl's mother. Erica Durance was Lois Lane on Smallville. So, and Helen Slater plays Supergirl's adopted mom on the TV series, and Helen Slater was the original Supergirl in the movie. So it's pretty cool to see how they're bringing people back and having them have a part in the show at one point or the other. And Terry Hatcher played Mon-El's mother, the Queen of Dax or Daxam. And Terry Hatcher was Lois Lane on Lois and Clark: The Adventures of Superman with Dean Cain. So it's all been kind of full circle with that. And I've enjoyed seeing these people come back and play these different roles. So that's cool. I've got no problem with that. So in the episode prior to this episode, so basically what's going on with Supergirl right now is that National City is the city that she protects. And during the day, she plays Kara Danvers, who's a reporter for Catco Magazine. Catco Magazine is now ran by Jimmy Olsen, Superman's best friend, who used to be a photographer at Daily Planet, who's played by Mehcad Brooks. So what's happened is that there's what's called the World Killer. And the World Killer is this Kryptonian person who is sworn to bring justice to the world. And she was supposed to be assisted by her sisters, Pestilence, and I forget the other one's name. Was it Famine? Something like that. I can't remember. So there were supposed to be 3 of them. Well, within the last episode, prior to this one, the other 2 were defeated, got killed, and the world killer absorbed both of their powers. So she's kind of unstoppable now. Now, the person who plays the World Killer, I thought I brought that up. Sorry, because I want to give you the cast members' names. So, yeah, I thought I had that for you. The person who does play her was also an employee of LexCorp and worked closely with Lana Luthor, Lex's sister, who at one point was Supergirl's friend. But as of lately, she's just not feeling the love and she doesn't trust her anymore, which is also very interesting. Okay, so yes, Melissa Benoist plays Supergirl, Kara Danvers. Kyler Lee plays her adopted sister, Alex Danvers. Jeremy Jordan plays Windshot, he's a government agent who works with Supergirl, knows her secret identity. His father was the toy maker. So, but Windshot wants nothing to do with that. David Harwood plays Jay-On, also known as the Martian Manhunter. Chris Wood plays Mon-El, Supergirl's once love interest, who's not, but might be again. And Katie McGrath plays Lena Luthor. So that's the initial cast. But I want to give you more. I'm looking for someone in particular to tell you about, because her. Sorry, 1 second here. Carl Lumley plays Miyam Jayan's, the Martian Manhunter's father. So he gets rediscovered. Jayan, Martian Manhunter, thought his dad was dead, but you find out that he's not. He brought him back to Earth. And that storyline has been great. My only issue with that is that all of a sudden, he has the Martian version of Alzheimer's. So now he's losing his mind. And I'm just like, the whole Alzheimer's thing in Hollywood television is now, that's a new thing that writers are exploring. And I understand that. I mean, there's lots of, it's very interesting to talk about. It's just that don't know if I was ready to see that in my science fiction. And it just would have been nice to see how the Martian Manhunter and his father just relate to each other now that his father's on Earth and how he's adapting. And watching that has been fun, but it's just now they've given him Alzheimer's. I don't know where that's going to go in that regard. So that's going to be interesting. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with that. I was trying to find the World Killer's name and I just don't have it yet, but I probably will have it later on in the podcast. But she has a daughter named Ruby. And right now she's being watched and protected because the World Killer, she's been sharing a body with the human being. So it's like this Kryptonian spirit has been in this human being. It's really fascinating how they're doing their storyline. And the first time the World Killer fought Supergirl, she almost killed her. So that was a big blow. So we're not sure how all this is going to play out, because right now what's happening with the story is that the World Killer she's starting to get resistant to kryptonite because Lena Luthor has her locked in her a government lab because she's trying to cure this person who's also her friend. And I wish I knew the name of I can't believe I don't have her name right now. It's just kind of really bothering me. I watch this show all the time. Seriously. But yeah, so the crux of the story is that Supergirl's having a hard time trying to figure out how she can defeat this person or save her life without killing her, because they feel like if they give her too much kryptonite, then they'll kill her, and they don't want to kill her because the alter ego is actually, their friend. So they find out that there's this rock that they can use to take her down, but it's out in space at a certain sector. So Supergirl and Mon-El take Jay-On, the Martian Manhunter's spaceship that's in his garage that looks like a car, and they fly it out to this spot. So when they get to the spot, they find out it's a planet they land on, and as they get down there and they look around, they eventually figure out that the planet is actually the lost city of Argo City from Krypton. Somehow Argo City was protected, and when Supergirl, aka Kara Zor-El, and Mon-El walk around, because at first they don't realize these people are Kryptonian, and eventually too much attention gets drawn to them, and then they get detained by these robots that fly in the air, levitate. These Kryptonian robots that you see like in the Fortress of Solitude as well. So, and then Erica Durance pops up, and that's when Supergirl realizes that her mom is still alive. She thought that she was dead. They have this bonding moment. They talk, and Supergirl lets her mom know that the prison that she created, because her mother was like a judge, and she used to send Kryptonian prisoners to this like a huge giant facility, and the space prison got sent to Earth and kind of crashed. So a lot of these super criminals got released, including Supergirl's aunt, so her mother's sister. So you see Erica Durance's character basically apologizing to Supergirl about what happened and saying that your sister, my sister tried to warn me about what was happening and I didn't listen to her. And, I arrested her and I feel guilty about that. And so, and that's fine. But I guess, so what I thought was interesting about this episode and just about the series itself, I've enjoyed watching this series. It's nice to see, now we're starting to get more female superheroes on television, and that's been long overdue, and I'm very happy and excited about that. So when I look at Supergirl, though, and Kara Zor-El, so her character she's very strong, she's fierce, she's intelligent, and I like what she does, but I guess the things that kind of concern me is, I feel like sometimes that her character is too naive in regards to how, the world is working and how people are. So I get that from the show sometimes. And then you see a lot of strong female role models and characters, and I think that's great. And Jay-On, the Martian Manhunter, is kind of like a surrogate father to her and her adopted sister, Alex. And I do enjoy him on the show. And Jimmy Olsen, his character is really great on the show too. But the only thing that just kind of bothers me is that, so she's Supergirl because she's Superman's first cousin. She's his older cousin. And they're tied together by blood because they're both from the House of El. So we've seen Supergirl's mother in the past, and we've seen her aunt, but we don't see her father, Zor-El. And in this episode, you find out that Zor-El gave his life to save Argo City and protect it, to preserve it, so communication can't come out or come in. And they've been on this planet, and they've been living peacefully. And the rock that Supergirl and Mon-El needs to take back to Earth so they can defeat the World Killer is used to protect Argo City. So Supergirl's mom arranges a meeting with the High Council so they can discuss it. So my issue is that, okay, I get all that, and you find out that one of the High Council members is actually the mastermind to the World Killers being unleashed on Earth. But Supergirl doesn't know that yet. But my issue is, like I said, is that we never see anything about Supergirl's father, Zor-El. It's almost as if his character is insignificant to the series. And it just kind of, it's just disappointing because, he's from the House of El, and love to know more about Supergirl's relationship with her father. They often, talk about her mom, and now they're showing her mom, and now she knows her mom's alive, and that's great. But the guy who's from the House of El, he's dead, and we don't know anything about him. We don't know what kind of great scientist he was. We don't know what kind of father he was. His character is basically nameless, and he's the whole reason why she is Supergirl, in the sense that, he's Superman's uncle. He's Jor-El's brother, and that's the only thing about the show that just kind of disappoints me, is that, we see and learn about the mother, but we don't learn about, the father. And he's just as important to who she is. That's the cool thing about when you watch Superman and you've read Superman's folklore and his legend. Superman is great because his Kryptonian parents didn't have him for long, but Mom, Pa Kent did. Jonathan and Martha Kent did, and he's grounded in humanity because of those, that farmer and his wife, that couple, they were all that was good and right with the American way of life. So, they gave him his foundation. So Superman really had 4 parents, Jor-El and Lara, and John and Martha. So you only get parts and pieces of that with Supergirl, and so I like to think that that's going to change, but we'll see. So what happened? Like I said, Supergirl reunites with her mom. They have a nice heart-to-heart. They bond, and Supergirl tells her mom that running into her aunt, it was kind of bad and nasty at first, but then she came around, but she died. But they got close before she died, and of course, Supergirl's mom tells her, "I'm very proud of you. I'm glad you're Earth's hero." And eventually, she's allowed to take a piece of the rock from Argo City back to planet Earth. And by the time she gets back, the World Killer is about to break free of the force field in Lana Luthor's lab that's holding her back. So, the episode ends with her about to fight the World Killer. And now Supergirl knows that her mom is still alive, so she can try to go back to Argo City and see how all that plays out. So like I said, I'm glad that happened, but it would have been a better episode for me if both of her parents were alive, so we can see how she interacts with both of her parents. I think that's really important. I think that's something that the show is missing. Otherwise, I do like the show, but that's my biggest complaint, is that. But otherwise, it's a good series to watch. I do enjoy it. The criminals are really cool. The dynamic between Kara Danvers and her sister Alex, who's this agent, and Wynn, and by the way, Jimmy Olsen on the show winds up becoming a superhero called the Guardian, and Wynn is like his partner who's this brilliant mastermind who builds his suit and gives him his gadgets and helps him when they're out in the field. So all that's going on. And Mon-El is a part of the Legion of Superheroes. There's a storyline where he came back from the future. He was married, and Brainiac's descendant is a part of the Legion. And now Mon-El's all grown up, and he's just this great hero now. And now he's still married, but he's still in love with Supergirl. So, but he came back to help her out. So we all know what's going to happen with that whole love interest triangle story. But it's a good show. The Dark Side of the Moon was an interesting episode because I didn't know they were going to bring her back. It's good to see Erica Durance back, who was Lois Lane, playing Supergirl's biological mom. So that's really cool. So by the way, the World Killer's name is on the show is Rain, and it's played by Odette maybe Annabelle or Nabla, if I'm saying her name right. And Erica Durance, who's playing Supergirl's mother, is Allura Zor-El. So that's her name. And Ruby Arias is Rain's daughter, Emma Tremblay. So, and that's what's keeping Rain from fully staying Rain. The fact that she has his daughter. Rain was trying to kill Ruby so she could just keep, so she could destroy her alter ego and just be Rain full time. Rain becomes the World Killer, but that's her name on the show is Rain, Reigen. So. But yeah, the show is good. I like it. I enjoy it. But that was just my only complaint is that I want to know more about Zor-El. We see that his wife Allura Zor-El's around and her sister was around, but we never got much on the father, who's the whole tie to Superman, and the whole tie of the House of El. So, but up next we got Animal Kingdom and Queen Sugar after this break.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back, people of Earth and the known universe. Listen to Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. Just finished talking about Supergirl and then our most recent episode. And now, The Return of Animal Kingdom, Season 3, Episode 1. So, Animal Kingdom is a television series that is about the matriarch, played by Eileen Barkin. Her name on the show is Smurf. Yes, it is. I'm not making that up. And she's got 4 sons. Baz. And so her name is Janine Cody, a.k.a. Smurf. She's got 4 sons. Andrew Pope Cody. Pope's his nickname. Craig Cody. Darren Cody. And Barry Baz Blackwell. So, but she also has a grandson named Joshua, aka Jay Cody. So basically, Ellen Barkin, I said Eileen, Ellen Barkin is the matriarch of this family. She's the head. And they're a family full of criminals in Southern California. They rob banks and other things and they make their money. And, Smurf also owns like some apartment complexes so she can wash her money. Basically, so what you see with this show is that the beginning of the series opened up with Jay, played by Finn Cole, being at the apartment and the paramedics taking his mom away because she OD'd. She was a heroin addict. You find out that she was Smurf's only daughter. So Jay never really knew his uncles, never really saw his grandmother too much. So it was just him and his mom. So when he comes over to see, Smurf and, let her know, because I believe he called her and let her know that his mom died. So she's like, well, come on over. So, of course she wants to bring Jay into the fold. That's her grandson, her only grandson. And the other, her other sons, they're just not happy about it at all. They look at him like he's a stranger. This is their nephew. So now remember, the show's called Animal Kingdom for a reason. Because even though all these people are family, they don't act like it. And they're very dysfunctional and violent family. And there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of love there. And then it also seems as if the mother, Smurf, also known as Janine, may have like a just an unhealthy relationship with her sons. It's just not something about just doesn't really seem right and normal, and it seems kind of borderline incestuous. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, but that's what makes the show really interesting because you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. You just know that she's the head of the house. She's the only lady in the house, and she allows these guys to have their girlfriends over and they party. They do whatever. So these guys have been spoiled all their lives. Committing crimes, having all kinds of guns and toys and motorcycles and ATVs, nice fancy cars, while Jay's been living in squalor with his heroin addicted mom who's now dead. So, some of those guys, most of those guys didn't even graduate from high school, but Jay is determined to keep on going to school and graduating. So he's going to keep his education. And, it's just interesting because you get the impression from his uncles, they think that he's just weak and young and doesn't know what's going on. And I look at his character, he's my favorite character because I feel like he is underestimated and that will be their undoing. And that he's a lot colder than they think he is. And he's grown attached to Smurf because, she is looking out for him. And he's not the type of guy, so in Jay's character, he's not flashy, he's not flamboyant, he doesn't really trip over money. He knows what it's like to not have anything, and he's just not spoiled. So he appreciates everything that he has. So after a while, the brothers kind of start to resent him. And then later on, within the 2 seasons, you find out that so Baz is Smurf's son, but he's not her actual blood-related son. She adopted him, took him in because Baz had an abusive father who was a drunk, who used to beat him. And he lives in a trailer, and Baz every once in a while goes over there and he drops off food. But, there's one scene where you see Baz He comes up behind his biological father, who's sitting in a rocking chair like asleep. And Baz pulls out his gun and he aims it towards the back of his head. And you see he wants to pull the trigger, but he doesn't. So like I said, this story is really dark. It's really interesting. So, Baz is only close to his brothers, but you can also see that he, out of the four guys who are already living there, out of the four brothers, he's the smart one and he's the one who wants to be leader. So, he goes along with what Smurf does, but you can tell that he's resentful. So by the time that season 2 ends, Baz has turned on Smurf without her really knowing it. He frames her for a murder and he robs her secret stash because she had all this money and jewelry hidden, and she kept it away from the boys, and they didn't know. And I forget how Baz finds out, but when he finds out, he's really angry because he's like, how can you hold all this from us? We had a right to know about all this money because you're supposed to share it all evenly and you're hoarding it. So Baz picks up Jay once Baz figures out where Smurf was hiding all of these funds, and he dupes Jay into stealing from Smurf. And Jay didn't know he was doing it until like the last minute because Jay wasn't going to do it because he doesn't want to get involved. And Jay knows that if he plays his role right, he can wind up inheriting and running all of that. So because he's the smart one out of all of them, and Baz sees it too. And Jay finds out that before his mom left, the reason his mom no longer lived with Smurf was because she got pregnant and Smurf kicked her out. Well, she got pregnant by Baz. But so Jay finds out that Baz used to sleep with her, and he asks Baz, well, are you my father? And Baz looks at him and says, so what if I am? Yeah, Scott Speedman did a great job playing his role. He just wasn't real likable at all. How do you tell that to somebody who lost their mom? A guy who doesn't even know who his father is. That's just cold. But yet you want him to work for you and to work with you, and you're like his uncle, but you might be his father and not his uncle. It was really messed up. But season 3 ends with Baz setting up Smurf. Smurf gets arrested for murder that she actually didn't do. Baz and Jay steal Smurf's hidden stash, but like I said, Jay didn't know that was happening until after he got there. Baz tricked him into it, and Baz has been having an affair with this girl named Lucy who lives in Mexico, who's got this brother who's always trying to run some small con game. So, basically Lucy's been his side chick because Baz was married and Baz has a daughter named Lena. You find out that Pope used to be in love with Lena when they were kids, and Pope used to be her boyfriend. And eventually Lena left Pope for Baz, and Pope never really got over that. Pope is Jay's uncle. Jay's mom was Pope's twin sister. So yeah, it gets deep. So basically, things that happen in this series, Pope winds up killing Lena's mother, and because she was going to run away, and she had stolen some of Smurf's money, and it was really messed up because Lena sees that Pope might be on to. Lena's mother sees that Pope might be on to her, so she seduces him. They sleep together, and afterwards he kills her. And then hides her. And then he basically disposes of the body and then takes little Lena. Lena doesn't even know what happened. And he starts taking care of her, and Baz is trying to figure out what happened to his wife. So Baz has this daughter, Lena, but he also has this, his lady he's having an affair with in Mexico. So named Lucy. So basically, the end of season 2, Baz decides that he wants to go down to Mexico and live with Lucy. He figures out eventually that Pope killed Lena's mother. And he was going to shoot Pope. And Pope has been feeling guilty about it. And Pope is the one taking care of their daughter. He spends more time with their daughter than Baz does. And it's really messed up. I mean, this is really compelling television. It's really good. It's really good stuff. So, Pope has been feeling very guilty about this. And Pope had considered killing himself because he feels guilty because he thought that by killing her, he was doing what Smurf wanted. And it was, but he realized later the Smurf was just wrong. And he realizes how Smurf has been manipulating him. And so he starts resenting her and he's no longer close to her anymore. So, for example, when Pope got out of jail, and he is having a hard time sleeping, one of the early scenes in season 2 is that he goes and he lies in bed with his mom and she snuggles up with him while they spoon together. It was just, like I said, so, Smurf has a really weird hold on her sons, but Jay is not like that. And Jay, he's close to his grandmother, but he kind of keeps his distance. And plus he has his girlfriend who's a spoiled military brat who, when he realizes, because at first when Jay starts to live there, he doesn't know that his relatives are these criminals. So, and he's really in love with his girlfriend, and he doesn't want her to be around all that. So he breaks up with her. And as rebellious as she is, she gets resentful. And then she starts sleeping with Jay's uncle, Craig. So Jay has to see that, and Craig is like, doesn't care. And then she starts doing drugs with him, and Craig he turns her on to cocaine. I mean, yeah, this is really happening on the show. So, but of course, eventually that runs its course because Craig is this good-looking guy who's not that smart, who just always messes up, and he's always doing way too much. He's spoiled and overindulgent, doing way too many drugs. Darren is the other brother. He's the younger brother who's been in the closet about being gay for a while. Doesn't want anybody to know about it, so he's been fighting and struggling with that. He finally comes out of the closet towards the end of season 2. So, all this is going on Animal Kingdom. And it's just really gripping. So, season 2 ends with Baz deciding that he wants to run off with Lucy, who was his side chick in Mexico. She has a son. And to my knowledge, her son is not by Baz, but I'm still not sure because I can't remember how long he's been seeing her. So he gets in the Jeep with Lucy and he's getting ready to leave. He's in his driveway. Someone walks up to his driveway in front of his car and shoots in the windshield 4 times and shoots him in the chest. Baz tries to find them, runs off, and he shoots at them. And then he just slumps over on the concrete. Lucy runs off, just leaves him there, tells her brother, and they go rob Smurf. So all the stuff that Baz had hidden, because he showed Lucy where it was, he's about to go get it and take it to Mexico and live down there, start a new life. So, being the woman who's supposed to be in love with Baz, what does she do? She leaves him there to die, basically bleed to death, and basically robs him, takes all the money out of this. They go to a house where it's all in the walls. So she and her brother take it all and leave. And you find out in that last episode that she's a powerful drug dealer in Mexico, but she's been playing the so-called submissive side chick who doesn't know anything, but she's really like a mastermind down in Mexico, and she's got everybody fooled. So, and she's like the boss of her brother. So season 2 ends with her and her brother leaving with all the goods and Baz bleeding out in front of his apartment. So season 3 opens up. The paramedics come. They rush Baz to the hospital. They operate on him. They try to save his life, and he has a cardiac arrest, and he dies. So didn't see that coming. Didn't think they were going to kill his character off, but he dies. Smurf has been in prison, angry and upset, trying to figure out how she's going to get out. Eventually they call and the police come over to the house and they tell Pope what happened. Pope tracks down Jay, tells Jay. So by this time, Jay and his ex-girlfriend are back together again. So she went from Craig back to Jay, which is, I don't even know what to say about all that. And the girl is not, she might be 18. I think she might have graduated from high school. But she's a kid and she's in way over her head. And I get the feeling throughout this new season that we're going to see more of that she's actually out of her league. And so, and mind you, her father, played by C. Thomas Howell, helped the Codys plan a robbery and how to rob a military base and get money. And once the robbery went through, he skipped town with his wife and his other child and his son. And she stayed behind. So that was all interesting. So yeah, so now Baz is gone. Pope is furious because he has to figure out who killed him. And he's still taking care of Lena. So he was taking care of Lena, Baz's daughter, even before he knew about this. He sends her off to school. Pope is he's not a real people person. He's kind of prone to violence. And but he's very sweet with Lena. He's really good. He does well with her. So it's really fascinating to see how that side to who he is. So, that kind of blows my mind a little bit. So he has to tell Lena that her dad is gone, but he doesn't tell her that he's dead. They all come to the house. Craig has been down in Mexico with his ex-girlfriend, Ren. Now, the situation with that was that Craig had been partying with Ren for a long time. That was the girl that he was messing with. She was a drug dealer. One day in season 2, he's over there with her and she ODs. He goes over there. He sees that she's OD'd. He thinks that she's dead. So what does Craig do? Being the great guy he is, do you think he calls the paramedics so they can save her life? No. He takes her drugs and money and he robs her because he thinks she's dead. Yeah, way to keep it classy, right? So, remember, the show's called Animal Kingdom. So, eventually he finds out that she's not dead. She gets her brother and her cousin to kidnap Craig, tie him up naked in the kitchen and rob him and beat him up a little bit. She leaves him in the kitchen and she's like, you left me in this restaurant. She's like, you left me for dead. And of course she's furious because she really cared for this guy and she didn't think he was going to play her like that. And of course he apologizes and then he's naked and tied up in a chair in his kitchen restaurant. He's got to call Smurf to come and get him. So that was humiliating, right? So somehow by the end of season 2, he apologizes. They hook up again, and now he runs off to Mexico with her. So Pope has been trying to call him to let him know that Baz is dead, and they can't get a hold of him. Eventually he does, and he comes back with Ren. Ren's the girl, played by Christina Ochoa. Ren Randall. So all that's going on now. And Pope is trying to figure out who killed Baz. He's just, he's looking at Jay sideways because he wonders if Jay had anything to do or Smurf, his mom. So he's suspecting his nephew and his mother of killing his brother. Now, mind you, Baz was the only one who kind of kept Pope in line. They worked together to get things done. Darren has taken money and bought his own bar, and he's trying to be separate and free from all the stuff that they're doing. And Craig is just lost. Craig doesn't know who he is or what he wants to do. But now that all of this has happened, they're trying to figure out, well, what's going to happen next? What are we going to do? Well, more about Animal Kingdom after this break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
So basically, the Animal Kingdom. So now the authorities alert Smurf in jail that Baz is dead. So you see her breaking down and crying when they tell her, and she's all upset. So, and then you see a scene where there's these people in black jackets and one guy in a motorcycle helmet. They go over to the house where Baz had the money, and they see that it's all gone. So one of them calls Smurf, or Smurf calls them, and they're like, no, they go visit Smurf, and they're like, the money wasn't there. Is that going to be are we going to have a problem? And she's like, no. So it looks like Smurf has been paying these people for protection in jail, but these people also look like they might have been the people who shot Baz, because Jay has to give them money. So when I saw that, I'm like, well, so who killed Baz? Was it Smurf or was it Jay? And then when Jay goes to visit Smurf in jail, she's like, it's a shame of what happened to your father. And Jay's like, what? She's like, you saying he's my father? She's like, of course he was. So she waits till after Baz is killed to let him know that this guy was your dad. But she didn't tell him all this time that he had been living there. So that was really messed up. So it'll be interesting to find out whether or not Jay had his own father killed or not. But now he knows that Lena's his half-sister. So we'll see how that dynamic plays out. But now, I mean, they're all at a standstill because they have to bury Baz. Everyone's upset. They got to figure out who tried to kill him. I mean, who killed him. And, you know, Pope is expecting everybody. At one point, he goes into Jay's bedroom while Jay's sleeping with his girlfriend. She's lying next to him, asleep. He puts his hand over his mouth, and he's just like, I'm going to find out who killed Baz, no matter who it is, and I'm going to kill him. You know, implying to Jay that, hey, if it's you, I'm going to take you out. This is his twin sister's nephew. Like I said, folks, it's called Animal Kingdom. So, and then Smurf is kind of flipping out because she asked Jay if he knew where the money was or where it went. And Jay's like, I had no idea where Baz put it. And she's like, it's not good to lie to your grandmother. He goes, I'm not lying to you. And Jay's not. He doesn't know where the money is. No one knows that Lucy took the money with her brother. Lucy pops back up and she's like, oh, is he dead? And she starts crying, crocodile tears. And then, like, Jay and Lena were in the car because Pope earlier had to pick her up from school, and he's on the swing set with her, and he's talking to her about her dad, and he's like, he's not coming back, but he doesn't say that he's dead. And Pope's like, is it okay if I come live with you in the big house? And Lena's like, yeah, that'd be nice. And, you know, Pope is crying while he's on the swing set with her. So you see this real vulnerable, soft side to Pope when he's with Lena. I mean, so you see, so it's really interesting to see how easy it is for him to go from hard and cold to and murderous to loving and gentle and caring. So that's what makes his character so fascinating, because he really does love Lena and he's going to take care of her. So, which is probably one of the reasons why he didn't kill himself. And before Baz got shot and killed, Baz told Pope that he forgave him because he knew that Smurf was behind what Pope did, because Pope was in love with Lena's mom. He didn't want to kill her, so it kind of broke him. And that's why he can't stand Smurf anymore. So, you know, they all pull up home. Pope sees that Lucy's there, sitting there with his brothers, and she's like, oh, I loved him so much, and I can't believe he's gone. And Pope is looking at her sideways like, how do we know there wasn't one of your, you know, gangbangers from Mexico who killed him, because you were sleeping with him and sleeping with both, you know, two-timing him with Baz. And she's like, I loved him, and, you know, Smurf is the reason why we weren't, you know, kept apart from each other. I loved him ever since I was 16. You know, she's pouring on the waterworks. She's like, I can't believe that he's dead. Lena comes out of the car. She's like, is my daddy dead? And then Pope picks her up, takes her, and, you know, walks into the house with her. And he looks at Jay like, what? Because Jay didn't know that she was going to walk in on all that. So they don't know how dangerous Lucy is, and that she abandoned Baz. And basically, she's the reason why he died, because she didn't get him any help. You know, she could have called the paramedics and stayed with him, and she didn't. So, she took the money and ran. So Smurf has to figure out who stole her money and whether or not it was one of her boys. Jay's got to figure it out. Pope's got to figure it out. They all got to figure out who killed Baz. So that's all in season 3. Now, in the previews, we see that Dennis Leary pops up, and I believe he's Darren's long-lost father. So, and that's going to cause friction between Smurf and the boys because Smurf doesn't want him there. So he's going to join the cast, and he's probably going to try to plan a robbery with the fellas. So the guys have been very good at not being caught. So it's going to be great to see how the season plays out and find out who actually killed Baz. But it's a great series, Animal Kingdom. If you're looking for something dark, bold, and fierce and intriguing, that's the show. And I believe it's on TNT. So we'll be back after this break, and we'll get into Queen Sugar.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Greetings once again, good people of Earth and the known universe, listening to Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. This is your Captain Keith, and we just finished talking about Animal Kingdom. Now we're going to talk about Queen Sugar. So where do I begin? So this is a really cool show. Queen Sugar is a television series on Oprah Winfrey's network owned, OWN. It's in its 3rd season now. It's about a family from the South. It's about one brother and 2 sisters, and they're all real different people. The Borderlands. I don't know. I want to make sure I say that name right. Don't want to butcher that name. How do you say that name? Hold on. Let me see. So their name is Borderland. So. And basically what happens, so Rutina Wesley plays Nova Bordelon. She's the oldest sister. Rutina Wesley is also formerly of True Blood. I forget the character she played on True Blood. I used to love that show. She was Sookie's best friend. Was it Tara? I can't remember. But she's Nova Bordelon, and she is this great journalist who lives in Louisiana, and she civil rights activist. She's a community activist, very staunch. And then her sister is Charlie Bordelon West, who was married to Davis West, who was a famous NBA professional basketball player. They got divorced, and there's a whole story behind that because he was cheating on her for years. And the girl he was cheating on her with wound up pressing rape charges against his teammates. And then she found out that he had been sleeping with her as well, and that was caught on camera, humiliated her. So needless to say, their marriage just ended. It got a nasty split. But now he is living in Louisiana, playing for the professional basketball team in Louisiana. And Charlie kind of maneuvered and manipulated for that to happen. So she's a very savvy business owner. She went to college. She expanded her ex-husband's portfolio to make him richer and her richer. They have a son together named Micah, who's now living with her. And Kofi Siriboe plays Ralph Angel, their younger brother, Nova and Charlie's younger brother. And he's an ex-convict who used to work the land with their father and farm it. So the show is called Queen Sugar because it's about the sugar mills down in this part of Louisiana. I believe it's in New Orleans. I can't remember offhand that's supposed to be based out of, but yeah. So the sugar farmers, and Queen Sugar winds up becoming the name of the mill that Charlie winds up creating, because when their father died, he still owned that land. But before he died, he had worked part-time as a janitor, but didn't tell anybody, so he could make ends meet, so he could keep his land. Ralph Angel, also nicknamed as Ra, has a son named Blue that everyone loves. When you see this kid, he's adorable, very cute kid on the show. Ralph Angel's been a single dad, raising him by himself, but with help from his father and his aunt Violet Bordelon, played by Tina Linford, who's the matriarch of the family now that her brother, played by Glenn Turman, is dead. So these are the main characters. DeAndre Whitfield plays Remy Newell, who is a professor and a farmer himself and a teacher, who winds up helping out the Bordelons after the father dies, and helping out Ralph Angel and Charlie and Nova with the land, and helping Ralph Angel get back on his feet in regards to helping him get the seed so he can, seed and soil the land and start growing it and tilling it. Ralph Angel is on probation, so he has to make sure he has a job. So basically what winds up happening, Charlie winds up moving back to Louisiana after her father dies and staying there. And she winds up seeing that there's a need, because a lot of the African-American farmers are kind of getting screwed over by the town, how do I say this? The Landrys, who are the wealthiest family in this area, who own a big sugar mill, and everyone's been forced to use their mill to sell and refine the sugar. So the Landrys all pay them what they want to pay them. So the Landrys have had a monopoly on the sugar industry for decades. And you find out that Charlie, Nova, and Ralph Angel's father was the only one who wouldn't sell his land to them. And you find out within the first 2 seasons of the show, I think it was probably in the second season, that the Landrys at one point were slave owners and had enslaved the Bordelons. And at one point, when the Landrys had fell on hard times, they sold some of that. They had owned that land and sold it to the Bordelons. So when the Landrys got back on their feet, they tried to get the Bordelons to sell them the land back, and they wouldn't do it. So they even tried intimidation, brute force to get the land back from them. But the Bordelons wouldn't. They wouldn't budge. So they kept that land, and that's the only land left that the Landrys don't own. Because if they can own that land, then they would own all that property, all that sugar plantation property, and it's just hand over fist profit for them. So, I mean, the show is very interesting, because you get to see how these 3 different siblings have distinct different personalities, and they're still a close family, and they're all trying to figure out who they are in this world. Nova is this fierce journalist who's, like I said, she's a radical community activist, and she wants to get a message out, and she cares about prison reform. She wants, these young boys who are getting profiled and put in prison, in these private prisons. She wants to help get them free. She's written articles on that, so she's starting to get notoriety and press on it. And in season 3, she gets an offer for a book deal and a tour and possibly a TV show, and she's hesitant. So what you find out about Nova's character is that even when she comes close to happiness, whether it's with a male love interest or a female love interest, she finds a way to sabotage it. It's like she doesn't want to be happy or believe that she can be happy. So any other aspiring writer gets flown to New York and gets an offer for a book deal and a 6-figure advance and promotional tour, and they would jump at the idea. But Nova is hesitant still, and Charlie's like, you should do it. You need to go for it. Don't be afraid of success. Charlie had built the Queen Sugar Mill, and it was going to be the first sugar mill owned by a woman, an African-American woman in Louisiana. And she was doing it for all the African-American farmers, so they have a choice and a place to go. And all of a sudden, the Landrys started spreading these rumors about how there's internal problems with the Queen Sugar Mill, which weren't true, but it was good enough to scare off all the farmers from milling with Charlie. Charlie even set up like a home with, a house or residence within the Queen Sugar Mill, so she could be there all the time. So all this starts to backfire on her. She starts to date Remy, who's like the local good guy, like I said, the professor, farmer, all around like super guy, who has been like, I believe he's widowed, but he likes Charlie, so they like each other, and she likes him, but she's been a little bit hesitant because she got burned with Davis, but she knows he's not Davis. Micah has been upset with his father because of the whole affair he had that was all over the social media that kind of embarrassed him. He's adjusting to new life because he was this kid. He used to go to a rich private school in LA, in Hollywood, and now he's in the South, and now he's got a whole new reality. At one point, he was driving a car in the second season and got pulled over by this cop. The cop beat him up and harassed and put a gun in his mouth. And for the longest time, Michael wouldn't talk about it. And eventually, Davis was able to get his son to talk about what really happened to him. And when he broke down and talked about it, it was a really moving scene. It was a good scene. And, Davis was there for his son. And eventually, Davis was able to convince Michael to tell Charlie what happened. And she was mortified, because this isn't the life they had. But it's just a reminder of, every place is not LA or California. So, and these type of things can happen anywhere, actually. So all that's going on. So Charlie realizes that she's not going to be able to keep her mill together if everyone's backing out from farming with her. Ralph Angel's not backing out. That's his sister. He believes in her. And he's telling the other farmers that those are all lies, but they don't want to hear it. So Charlie starts to devise a plan. She meets with one of the Landrys, and she finds out that this guy has a thing for her. So she starts to devise a plan like, oh, okay, so he wants me and he wants my mill. So at the end of season 2, we don't know what she's going to do. So when season 3 opens up, Charlie has moved to a whole new big old house that looks like a mansion basically in the South. And her and Micah are living there. And she said, so I needed to be separate from the mill. She devises a plan with Ralph Angel. She says, we're going to take the Landrys down and we're going to do it from the inside. So you find out in this episode that she's decided to sell her mill to the Landrys, but she also wants 1% of their company, and they give it to her. So, and that's going to be her way of getting into their financial records to see what they're doing, because she wants to find every nook and cranny of dirt on them so she could use it against them and eventually own their company. So she's smiling and playing nice, and they're thinking that they've won and they've beaten her because they're arrogant and they've always underestimated her. And Ralph Angel knows because she told Ralph, and Ralph is with her. And you see the closeness. Now, also in season 2, at the end, Ralph Angel got back with the mother of his child, Blue's mother. She was someone who had a drug addiction problem. She got help. She was in recovery. She started working a steady job. She slowly started to get back into Ralph Angel's life. They had a relationship. They were going to get married. And, she developed a relationship with her son again, Blue. And right before the season 2 ended, we see that, because she's going to get married, so she decides to invite her parents to the wedding. And she hadn't spoken to them in years. Michael Michelle plays her mom, and Roger Guinevere Smith plays her dad. He convinces her to, and her name is Darla, Blue's mom, Ralph Angel's baby mother. He convinces her, you need to tell Ralph Angel the truth. So we're like, what's he talking about? So we see where she tells Ralph Angel right before in the end of the season. Now, mind you, at this point, Darla has, she's been accepted into the family now. There's no more ill feelings because because when she was an addict, they had to go get Blue because she couldn't take care of him, and she was in a bad way. Vi forgave her. They made her part of the family. Darla started working for Charlie at the Queen Sugar Mill. So she tells Ralph Angel, Blue may not be your kid. So of course that destroys him, and he doesn't know what to think, and he can't even look at Blue. So he tells, Charlie and Nova, and of course they're there for him. And then of course Charlie fires her. She's like, you have broken my brother. You can't be here. So even when Charlie and Ralph Angel butted heads, she's fiercely loyal to him, and so is Nova. So I love to see the connection the siblings have. They're all three strong individual people with these very strong personalities. And I love the bond that they share, and that they never let it get too far out of hand. At the end of the day, they have each other's back. And it's just really interesting to see how this, how the family operates. So Violet finds out that she's got lupus, and she's got this boyfriend who's younger than her named Hollywood. He's a great character, great guy. He's very loving and attentive to Vi, and Vi was like, she's like, look, you should go get you a young girl so you can have kids. And he's like, no, I'm in love with you. Why are you talking all that mess? And she's like, we're going to get married. So, and Vi is a very strong person, very independent person. She likes to handle things on her own. For the longest time, she didn't even want anybody to know that she was sick. But yeah, so she, they get married, and they have their little honeymoon vacation, and they come back, and then she feels like Hollywood's kind of hovering a little bit too much over her. So at this point, the end of the episode from season 3, episode 1, is, Blue's been acting up in school. Now his mom has not been with him. We don't know where she is, but we see him talk to her on his cell phone, like a FaceTime. So Blue's, kids can notice these things. So he's been acting up in school, getting into fights, and he's not really listening to his father the way he used to. And he wants to see his mom, and he wants to go stay with her. So at the end of the episode, you see Ralph Angel with Nova and Charlie at the doctor's office, and they call him because he took a paternity test. And he reads the envelope, and then all you hear him say is that it don't change nothing. It don't change nothing. And he keeps saying that to himself. But even as he's saying that, it is, and you can see him just kind of shaking, and his sisters are on both sides of him, holding him up, just being there for him. So, we don't know what's going to play out now. Is he going to keep on being Blue's father? Is he going to send Blue to go live with his mom? And what is Charlie's plan? Have Landry's son and her been sleeping together? Or is that going to happen? How far is she going to go to get what she wants? And will it work? And is Nova going to, take the brass ring and take the book deal and just go for it? Or is she going to say no and just stay local and just never really be who she really can be? Is she going to kill her own happiness, or is she going to let herself be happy and go for it and make her career what it should be and what it needs to be? So, and will Hollywood and Vi's, marriage, last? Is he going to be able to, are they going to be okay? Because she's very independent, and, is he going to be able to adapt to all that? So I'm looking forward to seeing where this season goes, but it's an excellent show. It's really good. Queen Sugar airs on OWN Network. You should check it out. It's very fascinating. And I believe it's based off of some books, but I don't have that information in front of me. So I have to get back to you. I'll let you guys know about what book is based off of. But, and Kofi Siriboe, who plays Ralph Angel, yeah, he's the new heartthrob. He was also in Girls Trip. So all the ladies love him now. So he's the new matinee idol. So I expect we'll see more of him. But thank you, good people of Earth and the known universe, for listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. In the future, I'm going to have some movies for you off of Netflix, Amazon Prime. I've got some more stuff coming your way. So once again, this is Captain Keith saying thank all of you for tuning in. I had a good time. I hope you did. And I'll see you somewhere out in space.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.